So good afternoon. Welcome to Design Master Training. We're going to be doing some training on one-line diagrams, looking at some ways to do drafting for repeating elements in a one-line diagram. We'll do a little bit of training on that, and then I'll open it up to any other questions you have at the end. So if you have additional questions on one-lines or anything else related to our software, you can ask those questions. So here you can see I have a one-line diagram and a couple panels. I've got a main switchboard and 3 sets of panels coming off of that, A1, A2, A3, all connected together, and then B1, 2, 3, and C1, 2, and 3. I haven't put these in the drawing at all, so they don't have any elevation. So when you do your generate, for the riser in particular, you get just a line of panels that looks like this. And depending on what your system looks like, this might or might not be appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and look at some ways of drafting this that go beyond what the generate does for you, and to do some manual drafting and to look at how that can work and how we can repeat some elements through it. So rather than taking what Design Master created for us automatically, we're actually going to draft this all by hand. Go ahead and get rid of that. So we have the generate commands. You can always use those to get kind of a first draft to get the stuff in there, but it's never actually required to use that. So instead, I'm going to do the insert distribution equipment command. I'm going to select that main switchboard. And then when you do the insert, you have options over here on the right for what block you're actually going to use. We've got the default block, which is the switchboard. I actually want to do, I'm going to do a kind of a switchboard at the bottom of our thing, and then we're going to do some risers going up from that. So I'm going to grab our horizontal switchboard, because that will match more what I want this to look like. And I will click OK. And I will locate this on the drawing here. That's going to put just that switchboard in. And if I select it, you get the grip points, and now you can actually manipulate the size of this switchboard. If you grab a corner grip, it'll change just the size, like that. If you grab one of these middle grips, it'll actually pull the bus along as well. So if you want to have the bus extend as you're extending the switchboard, you can grab one of those middle grips, and it'll pull it all nicely together like that. So I'm going to go like that, and we're eventually going to fill this out with the panels going up from it. Now I'm going to run the insert distribution equipment command again, and we're going to do this first stack. So we're going to do A1, 2, and 3, just kind of going vertically up the page from that switchboard. And again, we have the choice over here as to what graphic we want to use. So I've got this box with the labels, but I'm actually going to not use that. I'm going to use this custom panel box with a bus. So that's going to allow us to draw the box, and it'll put in the bus. There's 2 ways when you're putting those in that you can do it. You can, if you just click OK at this point, it's going to prompt you for the location of the panel and then the location of the bus. So I can just draw on my panel. I want it to look something like that. And I can either specify the location of the bus or just press Enter. I'm going to press Enter, and it'll put it in the middle for us, and then it'll do a connection. Since we're going up the page, I actually want to do my connection from down below. And I'm going to, so we've got here the flip bus command. If we run that, it'll flip this bus and basically have the connection point be at the bottom, and then the next connection is going to be up at the top. And when you do that, it does its best to rearrange the feeder. In this case, this feeder is a little bit nonsense. That's not exactly what you'd actually want to draw. The simplest solution at this point, rather than trying to redraw it, I'm just going to erase it. I'm going to move this whole thing up just so we have a little more space on the page. And then when I do my update one-line diagram, it'll see that there's a feeder missing, and it will put one in for us. And so it does its best. It connects here, and it connects a distance away from this other vertical piece, and then does the horizontal piece there. So that's what it ends up giving us. I'm going to drag this whole thing over here so we have a nice vertical line just going up to that other panel. Now we might, at this point I'm just going to create, I'm going to create the other two panels in this stack. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this panel. I'll copy it, one here, then another one here. Now these panels are looking at the, actually I'm going to change how I did that. I'm going to put one label on here so that we actually know what the panel that's referring to. So if we put a panel label on there, we'll put the description, we'll say panel A1. Insert that on the drawing, we'll label that there. Now we can make our copy. One copy there, one copy here. You'll see that now it says panel question mark, meaning this is a copy, so we don't want to have it be the same thing as A1 because you only want to have one A1 on your one-line diagram. But we can reuse this for something else. And the way we point this to something else is we use the change linked database record command. We click that command, select the panel, and now we can point this panel to a different panel in the project. So I'm going to point this to A2. And when you do that, it'll do a connection, not a very good one in this case, but it will draw a connection between the two panels. Do the same thing here for A3. And again, it's going to attempt the connection and do it poorly. We really want it looking something more like that. But we still got that extra jog in there, which we can remove using this remove segment from feeder command. So now we have a nice stack, say those are on different floors, and they're all connected in that way. So we've got this nice stack, panel A1, A2, A3. Now we can come in here and continue adding some graphics. Let's say we want to actually have our breaker in here. We can add that with our change graphics command. Select that feeder. We'll go ahead and put a circuit breaker on there. We'll do a circuit breaker with amps. I'm not sure if it's going to put it in the right spot, if it works with the horizontal and vertical lines well. And if it doesn't, we can adjust it. Click OK. And it did come in nicely. So there we go. We've got our breaker. We've got our label. I'm going to put in another label on this feeder here. I'm also going to label the circuit that it corresponds to. And we'll put that label, say, there. So now I have some description of, we've got this breaker, we've got the circuit being labeled. Up here, we may want to include some additional information about these panels. I can go in and add some additional labels here. Maybe we want to show the voltage, and we'll show the bus amps. So the voltage, I'm going to do G for group and put it right here below that other label. And then the bus amp, I'm going to put right here next to the bus bar. And say we don't like how this is laid out, I'm actually going to have it be right justified. So I'm going to change the alignment. It's going to be middle right. And then I'm going to pull this whole label over here so that it's next to it on this side. Adjust the size so it's a nice 3 lines like that. So now I have a layout of labels that I like for that panel. To reuse those labels on the other panel, I can use the match label command. Just here, we can use the match labels in graphics. Run that command. I can say, okay, I like how I have this panel laid out. I can select that panel and apply those labels to these other two. So now we have everything laid out nicely, looking the same in our stack of risers there. The next thing that I want to do, we've got the A panels laid out. We also have a B and a C stack. I'm going to extend my switchboard over so I've got space to put those in. And I'm going to copy that whole thing. So I can take that whole 3 panels, 3 feeders, do a copy, and we'll put a copy here, and we'll put a copy here. You'll notice that the same thing again happened. It put all the question marks in, saying, okay, these panels don't actually point to anything anymore, but they're waiting for you to assign them to something else. You get the same thing down here on the feeders. They're not pointing to anything. And now we can use the changed linked record. I'll select this first one, which was pointing to A1. I'll change it to point to B1. It updates both the panel and it finds the feeder, says, okay, obviously that feeder is now the feeder to B1, and it updates it as well. Do the same thing here. Change that from A2 to B2, and from A3 to B3. And then we can repeat this process for the C stack of panels. Change that from C to C1, and it did not find that feeder, which is not what we wanted to have happen there. Do C2, very confused about the feeders. So in that case, I'm going to erase that, and we'll just do another copy. And we will connect those. We'll change those linked records to a C1, C2, and C3. So now we have 3 stacks of panels in our project, all that are looking the same, drafted, somewhat custom. It's not what the Generate Riser is using, but laid out fairly straightforward and fairly easily using the software. Without a whole lot of work, without having to draw that 3 separate times, so it is consistently nice looking. It did not copy over our breaker there, I think because we have the breakers turned off. So in this case, we'll use the match labels and graphics, and I think that will pull it over, and that does. So it did lose that graphic, and it shouldn't have, but we can add it in there. And now, of course, as you continue to make changes to your design, if you make changes to any of those, all the labels will update as appropriately with those panels. Thank you for attending the training, looking at how the change linked database record command works. I'll hang out on the line. If you do have any other questions, feel free to type them in and we can take a look at them. Otherwise, thank you for attending and have a good afternoon.